I'm excited to tell you that I have a special guest here with us today. But before I introduce her, I just want to tell you a little story that takes place back in February of 2018. I was 50 years old and I opened my bathroom cabinet, took a long, hard look at the box of hair dye that was just sitting there staring me in the face, and realized that the thought of dyeing my hair even just one more time filled me with dread. And instead of ignoring that feeling like I had for way too many years, I decided to listen to it. I stopped dyeing my hair from that day forward and I've never looked back. And what's weird is that one seemingly small decision had a huge impact, not just on my hair, but also on my life. And a lot of you have told me that you feel the same, that embracing your gray hair helps you enjoy who you are now instead of constantly trying to embrace who you used to be. Enjoying who you are now is such a relief. It's liberating and it's fun. And I have to tell you, as a woman in my 50s, it's especially fun in your 50s because so many of us women have been taught to dread middle age. And that brings me to my special guest, Sheree Clark. Sheree is a midlife courage coach, television show host, inspiring speaker, and an accomplished author. Her fork in the road coaching practice keeps her busy working with clients on creating an authentically fulfilling life. Sheree, I'm so excited to have you with me here today.
Not as excited as I am. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, my first question for you today is, what are a few things that women can do to make sure they have an enjoyable and fun midlife experience?
Wow. You're going to start me right out of the gate with a hard one, aren't you?
Yes.
So, if you're looking for a fun midlife experience, and who isn't? Who doesn't want to have fun in life? There's something else I'm going to suggest that we do in terms of framing that question, because fun is one of those kinds of words like, oh, that's fun. What does fun mean?
Right.
And so I think the important thing to do is number one, decide what is fun for you. Fun for me has evolved over the years, and I'm going to hazard a guess that that's probably the case with most of us. Fun for me in college was going to a kegger. It might have been pulling an all-nighter with my friends. It might have been, any number of things that have zero appeal to me now. Had you told me in college that I would have thought fun was going and watching Netflix or reading until 11:30 before I passed out and went to sleep and sleeping with my cat, I'd say that's not fun. So I think there's a place where we need to do a check-in. What's fun? The second thing is to ask ourselves, is it fun that we're after, or fulfillment or joy, or something that's a little bit more or less tuned into an event or things that you find entertaining, and more about appreciating and embracing the person that you are, which you talk about all the time. The person that you are, part of it has to do with this. Look at the two of us.
Yes.
um, and being authentically you. That's fun. It's not fun anymore to be somebody that you're not. So I think that was a long-winded way of getting at your question, but I hope that gives you some insight.
No, I think you put it beautifully. And I think that's also, I know not everybody watching this will be in their 50s and above, but I have to say, a lot of women I've spoken to, my friends and my sister and other people and myself, that turning 50 was like a turning point where we no longer worried what people thought about us so much. We no longer were willing to put up with things that didn't serve us anymore. And like you said, you're more in tune. I think a lot of us are more in tune with what is fulfilling for us. One thing I made a conscious effort to do after the pandemic, when all of us had been so stressed out for a couple of years, is to try to reduce stress in my own life and to try to, and I don't want to sound mean, but to try to remove people in my life who were causing that stress. I'm no longer willing to put up with certain things I might have when I was 20. You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. And I don't see one thing I'll coach you on. I don't know that that's something that we should say that sounds kind of bad or whatever. That sounds kind of authentic. And so I don't want to hear anybody apologizing for being authentic. And making boundaries is one of the things that you're talking about. Being able to say, and my best friend and I do it all the time. She'll invite me to do something, and I'm very frank with her, and I'll say, I'd rather watch paint dry than do what you're suggesting, And she laughs at me and she's like, okay, fine. I'm going to find somebody else to do it. Or she'll say to me, I understand. I know it's not your thing, but it would mean a lot to me. Are you willing to do this? And then I have a chance to say, you know what? I love you. I'll do it. I'll tough it out. And, but afterwards, can we go get a hot fudge sundae and you pay? You know,
Right.
so it's really about finding being comfortable enough in your skin and in your body and who you are to be able to say, this is what matters to me right now. What do you think? Are you okay with that, or do we need to further negotiate? And that, to me, that's the joy of midlife, is being having that courage. And I'm a courage coach, so that's what I like to talk about.
I love that. I think also, I was just thinking while you're talking that we want to be courageous in the way we deal with other people. And I think, well, that does come more naturally as you get older, but also with yourself and be honest with yourself. For example, I have a child with autism, and I definitely have some sensory processing issues myself. And for years, I've kind of beaten myself up because I hate to go clothes shopping. Every woman I know loves to go clothes shopping, and every woman I know loves jewelry. And those are two things that drive me bonkers. I can't stand the feel of necklaces on my chest. It depends on the necklace, but it's very hard for me to find one that works. It's very hard for me to try on clothing because if I don't like the fabric, it gives me the creeps. And so for years, I would always kind of make little jokes about what a bad shopper I was, or I would kind of apologize to my friends or relatives who wanted to go shopping with me. And finally, I just had this revelation recently at age 57. I don't need to apologize for that. That's who I am. And I also shouldn't tell myself those things. I shouldn't beat up on myself, even in my mind, about that. That's just who I am. There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm not going to apologize for it anymore.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And the same goes for things like food. If your friends all want to go to the Thai restaurant and try it, and you're like, you know what? I hate Thai food. If you're going to go someplace else, great, I'm in. If not, I'll catch you the next time. Nothing wrong with that. Or I'll meet you guys afterwards. If you're going to stop for a cocktail after you're done with your Thai food, I'll catch up with you then. It's okay to claim who you are.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about being older in your 20s. And I always thought of myself as kind of a rebellious or independent person. But when I look back, I really did care what other people thought. It's hard not to. That's how we're raised, especially as women, I think, to be very in tune with people's perceptions of us and how we interact with people. And it's kind of freeing and liberating to not worry about that so much. We can still be friendly and polite, but we can have boundaries and we can let people know I don't like that or that's not what I want to do. Like you said, I love the example you gave.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you don't give a shit about anybody else. I mean, I want to be clear about that. I'm not advocating be selfish, care only about you, just do what Katie wants, and no other way. It's the example that I gave with my best friend Amy when we negotiate over things, and she'll say, and both of us have similar values in that we're both early risers, we both go to bed early, we both like the same kind of food. That makes it easy, but there are times that we do have those times that negotiate, and we both have the freedom to be able to claim our own independence and our own identity.
But yeah, when you're younger, that's a lot harder. I think it's one of the great joys and reliefs of being older.
It's absolutely, and there's a lot of other things that are great about getting older, like that not caring also goes into how we present ourselves, and what you're willing to, like, I've stopped wearing high heels. I wore them all the time. I used to run through airports in them. I could wear them, all 12, 14, 15 hours a day. I don't think I own anything more than maybe a little kitten heel, and I don't even like the idea of wearing that. So,
I still like my high heels, but one thing that's been odd is in the past few years, I haven't been able to wear bras very often. I have very bad shoulder pain and haven't, and I also had a breast reduction surgery and I have scar pain. And so that took me a while to get used to the idea of going out in public without one because it's so, constrained in us not to. And then at the same time, I feel like, who cares? There's better things in life to worry about. I'm not murdering people. I'm not mugging people or whatever, stealing from my friends. I'm just not wearing a bra. I mean, I try to be a little discreet when I go out, but try not to worry about it.
oh, that's funny. I went kind of the reversed. I'm small busted, and so when I was younger, I cared what other people think, and I had these ornate padded bras with
Mm.
all kinds of stuffing in them, and so I would put them on, and then if somebody would happen to see me in a t-shirt, if we were doing something and I didn't have a bra on, it was pretty dramatic. And now I'm wearing it now, a sports bra. I'm like, you know what? It's as long as it's comfy, I'm good.
But speaking of that, what's interesting is I had mentioned I have a vidIQ YouTube coach I work with, and he's a young man. I think he's probably 30 at the most. He told me how he has a number of women in his life that he admires because they have entered midlife with intention and they are going, like you mentioned earlier, going after new goals and they are they're living their life to the best of their abilities. And the reason that I thought about that just now is, of course, life circumstances happen. We can't predict what our middle age will look like. But if you are healthy and you're able, it is nice to not only set these boundaries and things, but also give yourself some challenges, have some new goals, keep learning. Like he was saying his mother's a lifelong learner.
Yes.
And my mother is too, and I love that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I think those are things that can definitely make midlife more fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I gotta hook my friends up to watch this because we keep talking about her. But when we've been friends for 20, 25 years. And early in the day, our fun together, the things that we did was we'd go out drinking or we'd go out to dinner or we'd go to parties. And now our fun is taking classes together. So we will find somebody, we've done charcuterie, flower arranging, we've done all kinds of different things. And so one of us will find a class and say, "Hey, I signed us up for this. If you can't go, I'll find somebody else to go." But learning, expanding, trying new things, like you said. And there was a time that wasn't appealing to me, but it is very appealing now. And there are things that I've learned about that I didn't even know existed. There's all kinds of things that we can learn some of them are recreational, like I was saying, cooking classes or some artistry classes, but you can also learn about energy work or take a class. Our university has some free classes that they offer for anybody that's over a certain age can come, and they audit the classes, meaning they don't get a credit for it or they don't get graded. But you can take a history course or you can take a civics class at the university. It's a blast.
My mom did that when I was in high school. My mom went back and did some college courses because like, for example, she loved Eugene O'Neill.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so she took a class all about Eugene O'Neill, and she had such a good time because especially you don't have that pressure of, I've got to graduate, I've got to pass this test, but you can just enjoy learning for the sake of learning. And I saw a funny meme the other day. You've probably seen it too. It's going around the internet, but it said, I never was interested in birds until I turned 50. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a yellow-throated warbler? And I thought that was kind of funny because there are certain things when you're younger that maybe you don't even pay attention to, and now you appreciate them more. Like kind of like a child does. I don't want to say we're becoming like children, but a child sees the world with very open eyes and they notice things that other people don't know. And I feel like I'm going back to that a little more now, and I'm slowing down and enjoying what's around me. Do you think that's also something that happens as we get older?
Yes, in my own life, because you think of birders as usually the quintessential midlife or elderly person. Same thing with gardening. I've
Mhm.
lived in this house that I'm filming from today for 35 years. So it was more than half my lifetime ago, right?
Mhm.
So when I moved into this house, there was a very large garden in the southern part of the backyard. First thing I did, had that thing ripped out. I'm like, I do not want to spend my time with what little free time I have gardening. Thank you very much. And now I'm paying somebody a fortune this summer to put it back. so, so yeah, you do, and you change, but it's embracing those changes. And here's the thing: in the beginning, when you start first feeling that way, there's a little bit of shame, a little bit of like, am I really going to bed at 9 o'clock? Am I
Right.
really, fill in the blank, whatever it is that makes you feel old? But the same thing happens when you look in the mirror. Do I really have bat wings? Oh my God.
Right.
And you do anything to fight against it. You're like, you start Googling, is there surgery for bat wings? Or is there a supplement I can take? What are the exercises that I can do? And then you get to a point, and I'm not saying don't care. Not for 1 second am I saying don't care. I'm wearing makeup. I'm wearing a clean shirt. I'm doing those things. But embrace the changes. It's a different chapter. You cannot be 21 forever.
And I think I used to want to be 21 forever. Like I remember being a little girl reading Nancy Drew, and I remember thinking Nancy Drew was, to me, was at the apogee of everything I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that I didn't want to live past whatever age Nancy Drew was because that was like the perfect age. Now I think poor Nancy Drew was probably anywhere from 16 to 21. I'm not sure how old she was, but definitely I do not feel the same way. I think every day is a gift. And it's important to enjoy it where you are now. And you can enjoy it more if you're in the moment. That's why I brought up the gray hair thing in the beginning is I really felt like I was hiding a part of myself and I wasn't really me and I was ashamed of part of myself.
Right.
And I'm not saying everybody needs to go gray. That's not it, of course, but all of us have something like that. I think that's holding us back.
Yeah.
And once you can get rid of it, and it changed my mindset on so many things, like getting older, for example, and it starts making you question what other things do I believe that I can discard now? I don't need these old belief systems I had. It's kind of shocking and wonderful when you hit that moment.
Yeah. The biggest belief system that I love seeing women at midlife surrender is perfectionism.
Yeah.
Um, and that whole guilt thing we have about if we're having a dinner party, I'm guilty of it. This is how I know. This is why I'm a good midlife courage coach because I did all this crap before.
Mhm.
But, I would buy special ice cube molds to go with the dinner party theme and like down. And I'm not saying details aren't good; they're good down to the nth degree. But when the guy that I was dating, I remember vividly when I made this shift, I threw a dinner party for his boss and his wife who came over, and I did everything to the nth degree. I mean, I like went out, I had real silver and I polished it, the whole 9 yards. And when the couple that we were entertaining left, Charlie, my date, said to me, "Sweetheart, it was perfect. Everything. I mean, I noticed the ice cubes. I realized that you picked flowers that don't have a scent because they would interfere with the taste of the food. I saw everything that you did and I appreciate it. I just wish you had been there."
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah. And he was right. I was so busy, like looking around the table. Do you need more water? Can I get you something while I'm up? What do you think of the wine? Would you rather have red? I was so busy people pleasing and making it perfect and showing off everything that I could do that I wasn't even there.
Oh, I still suffer from that. I'm trying to get better. For example, it's Greek Orthodox Easter this weekend.
Yep.
And we always have a big feast because we have 40 days of no meat and other things that we've given up. I invited people over this year and I realized this morning I took on way too much. Greek food is not easy to make. I think it took me 3 days to shape all these cookies I was making and to freeze them and to get them perfect. And I started beating myself up because it's like, oh, I've got to make the bread in the morning. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to make the bread. I can just go buy bread. There's good bread at bakeries. And my sister and I have talked about this a lot, and both of us are trying so hard to stop doing this to ourselves. But we think if we're really being honest, it's not just because we want to serve people great bread. It is a little bit of show off. It's a little bit of a show off thing too, because I want people to see that I can do this. And I'm really trying to get rid of that because I don't have to prove anything. These people love me. I could probably serve Wonder Bread and they'd still be happy to come over. And I mean, they wouldn't like the bread, but they'd be happy. And so that's a harder one for me to give up. I need to do it because it can make your life a little miserable if you're always trying to be the best at everything.
The other thing that I love exactly what you said, and to dovetail to that, which might also be a suggestion that would help you for this weekend. The other thing that I've started doing is I will leave a couple of things undone so that when my guests arrive, I say, "Could you give me a hand with this?
That's a good idea.
Would you?" And I give them a simple job that they're not going to be either resentful of. Here, can you shape 6 dozen cookies and come back in a couple hours into the kitchen and I'll cook them? Not like that. And something that they won't be embarrassed if you give them a hard job and they can't do it or whatever. Just pick the right thing, and that helps takes the edge off because a lot of people when they come over to see you, if they're not the extrovert, they're feeling a little uncomfortable and a little awkward. Like, can I help? What would you like me to do? And so when you are at the ready and say, "Hey, could you shuck this corn or whatever?" It's kind of nice. And then people are in the kitchen and it's social, and all of a sudden the anxiety is gone.
I think that's a great way to handle it. I love that idea. Yeah, that is on my goals. It's one of the number one things I need to do this year to try to let go of perfectionism. Now I'm trying to already plan out perfectly how to let go of perfectionism. I'm going to take a break. Speaking of guests and events, would you tell us a little bit about the May Talk series that you're hosting right now?
Absolutely. Well, the good news is if you're listening before the talk series begins, I'm not going to have you come and shuck corn or do any work. You don't have to sing for your supper. I'm hosting Sheree Clark's May Talk series, and this is the 15th interview series that I've hosted. So I'm an old hand at this stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm featuring 26 experts from around the world, all the subject matters having to do with things that are interest of, to us in midlife. So clearly, going gray is a subject that is of interest to many, not all, but many women in midlife. Other subjects that I have include relationships, relationships with, for example, many of us have known narcissists in our lifetime. In some cases, it might have been an ex. In other cases, it might be a parent. It might be somebody that you work with or for. Other relationship things are relationships with your adult children. Relationships change over time. They're still your kids, but when they have their own kids, then all of a sudden the dynamic flips a little bit. So, how do you handle that? We'll talk about different aspects of health, your body, including things like your teeth. And teeth are one of those things, like we're talking about all the stuff that didn't matter when you were young. All you could think about your teeth was how white are they, and do I have anything in them? And then as you get older, you start thinking about how do I make sure that I keep them because they're so important. I don't want dentures. I want them to be healthy. So all of my subject matter experts are experts in an area of interest to women. And the interviews that I do are audio only, so you can listen to them anywhere. I like to take them with me when I go for a walk or when I'm preparing dinner if I'm not having company and I'm just making something in the kitchen for myself. That's a great time to do it, and they're all less than a half an hour. So they're bite size, and I don't fool around. Just like you, Katie, one of the things I appreciate about you is there's not chit chat. There's no, warm up to where the listener is fast forwarding, trying to get to the meat of the matter. No, right out of the gate, we're talking about what matters because how else am I going to keep it to less than a half an hour? So the series kicks off on May 12th of this year. If you join us late and you're listening to this, let's say it's after May 12th, you didn't miss anything, you can jump in and then there's an encore at the end where we replay anything that you would have missed. Also an opportunity if you want to buy access to the series for it's a nominal amount. So I'm excited. I'm excited you're coming and you're going to be there as a guest. And yeah, I think it's a fabulous event. Thank you for asking me about it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for asking me to participate in it. I had such a great time talking to you at that. And I will put a link in the video description box below for anybody who'd like to join. And I think it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful time. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here with us today. I'll put a link to your website in the video description box too, so anybody can check out your services because I think it's a great thing you're doing. So many women fear midlife, and it should be an exciting and wonderful time in its own right.
Well said.
Well, thanks so much, Sheree. So nice seeing you again today. Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care.